My father didn't ask for my house. He announced it. "Give him the house," he said, loud enough for all 14 relatives at the dinner table to hear. "It's not like you need all that space." Everyone laughed softly, awkwardly, like this was just another harmless family conversation. But I knew better. Because when my father used that tone, the one polished with entitlement and wrapped in fake concern, it meant a decision had already been made for me. My name is Erica Monroe. And if you've ever felt like the reliable one in your family, the person everyone leans on but no one truly sees, stay with me. Because this story isn't about a house. It's about what happens when the quiet daughter finally stops volunteering herself for sacrifice. It happened 2 weeks after my brother Andrew's second child was born. The entire family gathered for one of those crowded dinners that looked warm in photos but felt cold in real life. Everyone celebrated Andrew like he'd accomplished something historic simply by becoming a father again. My mother dabbed fake tears from her eyes. My aunt toasted the future of the family. And Andrew sat there grinning beside his wife like a king being honored by loyal subjects. Then my father tapped his glass. "We've been thinking," he said. The moment I heard those words, my stomach tightened. Because growing up, "we've been thinking" always ended with me losing something. "You've done very well for yourself," he continued. "Big house, no children, stable career." He glanced toward Andrew. "Your brother's family needs more room now, and honestly, it just makes sense." There it was, the ambush. No one looked surprised. Not my mother, not my cousins, not even Andrew, who looked like he was already measuring my living room for furniture. "You want me to give Andrew my house?" I asked calmly. Dad shrugged. "Family helps family." Mom leaned in gently, as if softness could disguise cruelty. "It's just a house, sweetheart. You don't understand what it's like raising children." Andrew laughed. "We'd take good care of it," he said. "Might finally repaint that strange green wall." More laughter, and in that moment, something inside me went still, not angry, clear, because I finally understood that to them, my life had always been temporary, useful only until Andrew needed something. I smiled politely, folded my napkin, and said the only thing they expected to hear. "I'll think about it." They relaxed instantly. That was my role in the family, the agreeable daughter, the dependable one. The woman who absorbed disappointment quietly so everyone else could stay comfortable. But that night, sitting alone in the hallway of the house I worked years to afford, I realized something painful. They didn't value my kindness. They depended on it. And there's a difference. I had spent most of my life earning things no one celebrated. While Andrew was called the hope of the family, I became the backup plan. I handled bills when Dad's business struggled. I postponed college to help with expenses. I worked nights, studied mornings, and built a career in finance from scratch while Andrew drifted through failed jobs and expensive hobbies. Still, every success of mine came with criticism. When I bought my home, my mother texted, "Don't decorate too much. It looks desperate when single women overdo things." No congratulations, no pride. Just another reminder that to them, my accomplishments only mattered if they benefited someone else, and now they wanted the house too. But what they didn't know was this: I had stopped confusing love with obligation. The next morning, my cousin Lena texted me, "Did you say yes yet?" I frowned. "Yes to what?" Her voice note came immediately. "Andrew told everyone you agreed to give them the house." I sat there stunned. They weren't waiting for my answer. They had already written the story. By the end of the week, relatives were congratulating Andrew publicly. Neighbors smiled at me like I was some generous saint preparing a noble sacrifice. That's when I understood something terrifying. This wasn't family discussion. It was coordinated pressure, and once I realized that, I stopped reacting emotionally. I started paying attention financially. I reviewed old paperwork, account histories, archived tax files. At first, I only wanted clarity. Instead, I found fraud. Unauthorized financial activity connected to my name. Loan inquiries I never approved. Tax deductions tied to accounts I never opened. And buried inside those records was the worst part: a forged power of attorney, signed with my name, filed by my father. I stared at the document for nearly an hour before I called my former bank manager. Her voice dropped immediately when she reviewed the records. "Erica, this should never have been processed." That was the moment everything changed. Because betrayal hurts differently when it comes with paperwork. I didn't scream. I didn't confront them. I prepared. Quietly. I froze every shared authorization tied to my accounts, moved my property into a protected trust, updated my will, filed confidential reports with fraud investigators. And then I did something else. I let them think they were winning. The following Sunday, I invited everyone to dinner. My father arrived smug. Andrew brought measuring tape. My mother carried wine like we were celebrating something beautiful. I set the table carefully, candles lit, documents prepared, dinner served. They thought they were coming to finalize the transfer of my home. Instead, I handed my father a folder. "What's this?" he asked impatiently. "Everything," I replied. He opened the file. The color drained from his face instantly. Inside were copies of the forged documents, bank records, legal notices, and investigation filings. Andrew leaned over his shoulder, confused at first, then pale. Dad looked up at me, stunned. "You're making this legal?" "It already became legal when you signed my name." Silence, the kind that changes relationships permanently. My mother tried first. "Erica, sweetheart, we can work this out." I shook my head slowly. "No, you already worked it out. You just forgot to include me." Andrew stood abruptly. "You'd really do this to family?" I looked directly at him. "You already did." Then I handed each of them a formal notice requesting no further financial contact, and finally, I opened the front door. "You should leave now." For the first time in my life, they looked at me differently, not as the helper, not as the dependable daughter, but as someone they could no longer control. The fallout came quickly. The forged documents triggered investigations. Financial institutions froze suspicious accounts. My father's reputation collapsed quietly but thoroughly. Andrew's financial issues surfaced publicly after failed loan applications revealed inconsistencies tied to my records. And suddenly, relatives who once called me selfish began calling me brave. Funny how truth changes people's vocabulary. But here's the part no one tells you about finally standing up for yourself. Freedom feels unfamiliar at first. The silence afterward can feel almost frightening. For weeks, I wandered through my house expecting guilt to arrive like an overdue bill. Instead, something else showed up. Peace. Real peace. The kind that lives in small moments. Morning coffee without anxiety. Dinner without criticism. A home where every room finally belonged to me emotionally, not just legally. I started painting again, cooking again, sleeping through the night again. Eventually, I went back to school and specialized in financial forensics. Because once you survive financial manipulation, you begin recognizing how many people suffer through it silently. Later, I opened a consulting firm with 2 trusted friends. We helped women rebuild after financial abuse from partners, relatives, and sometimes entire families. One client sat across from me during our first session and whispered, "I thought I was overreacting." I smiled gently. "No," I told her. "You were just trained to minimize your own pain." That became the mission. Not revenge, restoration. About a year after that dinner, I received a handwritten letter from my father. No apology, just familiar guilt wrapped in softer language. "Maybe we can start over for the sake of the children." I stared at the letter for a long time before placing it into the fireplace. Some relationships don't heal through reconciliation. Some heal through distance. And that's okay, because protecting your peace is not cruelty. It's maturity. Today, the house still has the green wall Andrew mocked. I kept it intentionally, not because I couldn't repaint it, but because it reminds me of something important. I survived becoming the person everyone expected to sacrifice herself, and then I became someone else entirely. Someone stronger, someone freer, someone who finally understood that love should never require self-erasure. People often ask how I walked away from my family so calmly. The truth is, I didn't walk away from love. I walked away from manipulation disguised as love. And once you learn the difference, everything changes. So if you're the dependable one, the fixer, the quiet achiever, the person everyone expects to understand while your needs disappear, please hear me when I say this. You are not selfish for protecting what you built. You are not cruel for saying no. And you do not owe your peace to people who only value you when you are sacrificing yourself for them. Because family should feel like safety, not surrender.